So welcome. My name is Katera Noviello-Kapoor, and I am the Senior Director of Health Promotion, Wellness, and Athletics at the 92nd Street Y. Thank you so much for joining us for our program tonight, Unhunched, Finding Your Wellness Through Posture with Aesha Tahir, who we're thrilled to have with us this evening, and I'm thrilled to be in conversation with her. So we look forward to really getting into some practical strategies towards supporting our postural health. And of course, we always have upcoming Spark Your Health events, so we will be submitting those into the chat throughout the duration of the event. We have Built to Move with Juliet Starrett coming up at the end of the month, and a few other really exciting things. So stay tuned in the chat and we will have those for you. So I would love to introduce Aesha here. Hello there. And I'd also like to just remind everyone the structure of tonight's program is that we'll have about 45 minutes of discussion, and then we'll leave at least 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So just feel free to be, putting into the chat box throughout the duration of the event any questions that pop up, and we will make sure that we leave time to get to those at the end of the event. So without further ado, I'm very honored to welcome Aesha to the Spark Your Health virtual stage. Aesha Tahir is an exercise physiologist on a mission to help busy desk-bound professionals live a better life through upright posture. She is the founder of Tone and Strengthen, a virtual wellness solutions company. She has helped many desk-bound teams unlock the door to self-confidence, courage, and improved health by providing fitness coaching to correct their posture. Her book, Unhunched, about discovering wellness through posture is coming out in May 2023. So Aesha, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So what I would love to start with is, as we were prepping for this conversation, I got to learn a little bit more about your background. And, if you had always been a stickler for posture, what kind of brought you to that point? What was your why? So I'd love if you could share a little bit about your story, because I think probably a lot of people on this webinar this evening might be able to relate.
Yeah, no, I love that you're starting right there, because that's a big part of why I'm doing this and why I wrote the book. So working in the exercise science industry is my second act. I worked as a software engineer in corporate world before stepping into the health and wellness field. And during my time at corporate America, I was leading a very sedentary lifestyle, leading to severe low back pain and sciatica. One morning, I woke up to a numb left foot, and I drove myself to ER, and the ER physician is like, "Oh, you're having sciatic pain because you have low back pain." So that started my 3-year journey to debunk the pain and how to relieve it and get rid of it. And eventually, exercise and being more active and breathing better, all those strategies that I talk about in my book were the ones that helped me get out of that back pain. Now, although my painful days are behind me, I want to help other professionals live a pain-free life filled with passion and vitality. And my role as a corporate wellness consultant is a perfect merger of my expertise as an exercise scientist and as a corporate ex-corporate athlete, I like to call it. Now I can create wellness programs for small businesses and corporations, and then I coach the desk-bound professionals because I have that background. So my why is to empower others to live a healthier and pain-free life, because we have so much potential within us, but pain keeps us back. And not just physically, but emotionally too.
I love that you brought all of that together, all of the strategies that you had to take 3 years kind of pulling together yourself and being in the unknown. And you brought that all together into a book and into strategies. I love that you're giving back in that way. And so before we go further, I thought we should probably check in with our posture with you, the expert in posture. So maybe that's something that the audience and we can be thinking about throughout the duration of the event tonight.
Yes, so posture awareness is the first step to having better posture. And what is posture? So posture is our position in space, how we are aligning certain body landmarks in space when we are sitting, standing, lying down, or even when we are moving, right? So the alignment of four landmarks of the body are very important. So we look at our ears, or you can say earlobes, shoulders, our hips, and then our ankles. So if all of these landmarks are aligned and stacked on top of each other, looking at a person from the side, or as we like to call it, laterally, that means that their alignment is correct. And we can all practice having our natural and good posture right now. If you are driving at this time, please just listen to the prompts and you can practice it later. But if you are at home, you can stand up out of the chair, place your feet hip distance apart, have a soft bend in your knees, just a slight softness, and stack your hips above your ankles. Now stack your shoulders above your hips. I just turn sideways so that the audience can see me. And this is big because a lot of times we are working on the computers and the first thing that goes is our head because we try to move our head forward. So this is important. Try to press your chin just ever so slightly behind towards the imaginary back wall. Or if you were seated, you would do it, you will press it to the backrest, the headrest of the chair. I joke with people that try to give yourself like a slight double chin, because that's what's going to strengthen these muscles and you're going to get rid of the double chin and everybody's on board then. So that's what proper posture looks like. Let's go from head to feet now. Head aligned over your spine, shoulders down and back, shoulders stacked above your hips, hips forward, soft bend in your knees, and hips stacked above your ankles. So that's how we go over the posture. Simple, easy way to support your skeleton and all your body's supportive structures like muscles and ligaments. And why is this position so optimal? Because this is the position where our body can resist the forces of gravity most optimally. So you're not really bringing in any degenerative changes because now your body has to work extra hard to resist the forces.
Fantastic. So I think we'll all be thinking about those points, those posture points throughout the event, hopefully. You mentioned the word easy, and even though it seems like it should be easy, I'm sure that you have clients coming to you saying, maybe it's even painful for them to maintain that posture over a certain period of time. So tell us, why is there pain in correcting our posture? Why is it hard for us to maintain that posture? And how do you help your clients through that?
Yeah, so as soon as I tell people that I'm a movement specialist or a posture coach, all of a sudden people have this reaction that, oh, they're upright and all of a sudden like their shoulders are rigid, their whole body becomes super rigid and tense. And I tell people now when I'm giving workshops that, hey, it's supposed to be a relaxed posture. So your natural posture is aligned posture and it's an upright posture, but it's flexible and mobile and very relaxed. So it's not rigid and tense. And a lot of times one of the biggest thing I see is that people like really bump their chest forward. And what that does is that really creates a strong arch in your back, which isn't good for your lower back. And also they lock their knees. Mm-hmm. So all of these kind of like go in tandem because we feel like that this is supposed to be our proper posture. But our natural posture is the posture that we are born with. If you look at your kids, toddlers, or if you look at a picture of a toddler, you'll see how they have this beautiful movement and posture, body posture, which hasn't been taught to them. It's just natural to their body, right? They always have their tailbones tucked. They always have their ears aligned with their shoulders. They always have their shoulders stacked above their hips. So we want to get back to that natural posture. And the reason it's hard for people to maintain that posture for a very long time is because we develop muscle imbalances over time. So I like to give this analogy that muscles are like Play-Doh. So if you put them in a mold, that's what they're gonna adapt to. That's the shape that they're gonna get into. So yeah, you can correct your posture for 5 to 10 minutes, but since our muscles are imbalanced, so certain muscles are very strong and certain muscles are very weak, that our body is going to go into that same position again, because that's how it's molded at this time. So we need to just undo those muscle imbalances and create a symmetry in our body. And early in my, painful days when I was trying to find a solution to lower back pain, I used to do the same thing. I would really tense up and I would stay there for 10 minutes typing on my keyboard. And next thing I would know, I would be like, again, hunched over, because I was just perpetually hunched over my keyboard, till a physical therapist explained to me that your natural posture isn't forced at all. It will come with daily practice. You have to practice good posture habits daily, just small doses, and that will build up progressively. You'll be able to undo your muscle imbalances. And once you do, then you go into maintenance and keep up with those practices to maintain that upright posture.
And do you have any kind of clever tricks to kind of jog the memory because again, days get busy. I'm sure people forget to, again, that posture starts to roll down forwards, depending on what your job is. I've heard other exercise physiologists focused on posture saying, when you're brushing your teeth, that's a great time to think about posture. Do you have any kind of other triggers that you use throughout the day to help remind people to just check in?
Yeah, so while brushing your teeth, there is an exercise I give to people, which is to squeeze their glutes, hold it for 5 seconds and release. So that's awesome. Of course, you're gonna hunch over slightly on your sink, but the way you're hunching over, since you're squeezing and releasing your glutes, it's gonna make sure that you're not using your lower back and you're engaging your core naturally. The other thing while you're working on the desk is to set a timer. So we all have our phones now. We are all working on desktops and laptops, and they all come with timers, right? The clock app. So set a timer on your clock app for 30 minutes, and every 30 minutes, take a 2-minute break. Readjust your posture in those 2 minutes. Maybe go to the water cooler, grab a cup of water, stay hydrated. Also move. Maybe that movement is, if you're in a Zoom call or you're attending a webinar, stand up off of the chair and march in place. That's still movement. So those are my go-to things to say. Also, if you're doing dishes, working in the kitchen, a lot of people ask me that too, that, oh, I'm always hunching over, even over my kitchen counter. Well, do the squeeze and release exercises. That's going to really make a huge difference in your lower back pain and your overall posture.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, so I was lucky enough to read the advanced copy of your book, which I loved and found it fascinating. And one of the connections that you make that I was very surprised about was you talk about posture kind of predicting longevity. And so you talk about the sit to stand test and what that can kind of predict and how we can improve that. So I'd love if you could tap into the research that you found on that a little bit and maybe explain a bit about what the sit to stand test is and how we can work towards that.
Yeah, so the sit to stand test is a flexibility measurement test, which is connected to our longevity. So this is how I came across it. When I'm working with my clients, most of my clients would come to me and say, oh, I'm getting old. And this is during when we are doing a functional activity test, which is different than the sit to stand test. But in that test, I asked my clients to stand on single leg and put their sneakers on. So they're supposed to, unassisted, they're going to stand on one leg and put their sneakers on and lace them up. And a lot of times, my clients are not able to perform that test. So they wobble, or they have to, hold on to the wall while they're putting their shoes on. And while they're doing that, they're like, Aisha, don't get old. But in my head, when I hear my clients make this comment, like, there's a disconnect. You know why? Because I saw my great grandmother get down to the floor unassisted, sit in a squat position, do all the home chores till she was 98 years young. So as a kid, I used to go to her home and I would see her doing all that. So for me, age has never been an issue, right? But I'm here and I'm practicing and I see all these people are like, no, but this is because of our old age. So the balance that we are losing, the flexibility we are losing, that's because of old age. So I wanted to address that in my book. And when I was doing the research, I came across this sit to stand test that has been developed by the Brazilian physician, Dr. Claudio Araujo. And what he realized was that sitting down, getting down to the floor, and then getting up unassisted is a test that can provide us a window into the lifespan of an individual. And this is how we can perform that test. It's easy, but if you're not sure about your balance, make sure that you're standing close to a wall or you're standing next to a person who can help you, catch your balance if you fall or if you lose your balance. So it's you cross your ankles, crossing, right leg in front of your left at your ankles. And then you're supposed to drop down to the floor, all the way to the floor into a cross-ankled seated position without any assistance. You're not supposed to touch your body. You're not supposed to touch any object for balance. If you wobble, you lose half a point. And if you touch any surface for balance, you lose a full point. You're starting with a 10-point score. The same way you got down, you're supposed to get up off of the floor. Unassisted, you wobble, you lose half a point. You touch any surface, you lose full point. So what they found was that a score of 10 means that you have seamless mobility, you have excellent flexibility, which also means that you have A-OK posture, right? However, for every point that you lose, your all-cause mortality rate, which is your lifespan, it decreases by 21%, which is a huge percentage if you think about it. So, and so for me, it was very fascinating, but at the same time, there was a connection that I could make to my childhood observation that I saw. And what I realized was that getting down to the floor and sitting on the floor at least 10 to 15 minutes a day is important because we are literally losing our connection to Earth. And what it does is it takes our joints through full range of motion. So your knee moves through full range of motion, your hips move through full range of motion, your ankle moves through full range of motion. Once you're moving those joints through full range of motion and your muscles are working with that flexibility, you're gonna have a proper posture, you're gonna have better balance, you're gonna have, you're not gonna have muscle imbalances, better symmetry.
So I don't usually cut to questions right now, but such an appropriate question came through the chat that I want to make sure we address it, which is, what do we do if we're not quite there? If we don't have that perfect 10 of, sitting down and standing up in that cross-legged position, I think everyone would love to hear what we can do to improve that.
Yeah, so far I have had only a couple of people come through who have had perfect 10. So you are fine. The person who's asking the question, just letting them know, a lot of people don't have 10. So what I suggest is that start where you are, stand next to a chair, or maybe you have a desk, which is like shoulder height, wrist height, or kitchen counter, right? So hold on to something and then drop down to the floor and see how low you can go. You don't have to go all the way down to the floor too, because if you have knee issues or hip issues or any kind of orthopedic issues in the lower body, you might not be able to get down to the floor all the way too. So maybe you can have a couple of floor cushions sitting where you're practicing this position. So get down to the floor cushions, hold on to the wall, then slowly progress. I would say every 10 days to 2 weeks, start progressing, maybe touching just your fingertips instead of putting your whole hand to support yourself, then moving away from the support system. And if you keep practicing it, 2 to 3 times a week, you will start seeing that improvement. Why? Because now you're training your muscles to get down that low, to get through that full range of motion for your joints. And eventually you'll get there. But normally our training cycle is 6 to 8 weeks, where you'll start seeing a significant amount of improvement. And you might even get down to the floor in 8 weeks, or sometimes it might take you 12 weeks to get down there.
And I'd imagine there must be a strength and flexibility component to this. I mean, are there certain strength moves that you train, squats, or maybe even a deep squat to help kind of elongate those inner thigh muscles?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of corrective exercises which are needed. So mostly what's happening is that our dorsiflexion at our ankles is limited. Second, our hip flexors are really tight. So those two we see very commonly in people for whom the sit to stand test is difficult to perform. So once you start just performing that test more often, you're gonna take your ankle through that full dorsiflexion, right? Which is gonna happen because you have your ankles crossed and you're sitting down. Same thing as you're getting up, you're getting out of that dorsiflexion. And for your hips too. So when we sit in the chairs, which we do a lot while driving, while watching TV, while eating dinner, right? So hip flexors are shortened, which are our small muscles at the front of our body, and they connect our torso to our legs. But when we sit on the floor, now those hip flexors actually, again, are going through that full range of motion. They're not halfway bent, which they are on the chairs. They are fully bent. And when you get up, now you're fully extending your hips. So you get out. To prep for this pose, getting on the floor like a deep squat is a really good way to do it. And you will probably notice that when you get into the floor squat, your heels stay up. So the same concept, because the dorsiflexion isn't there. So we lose dorsiflexion the more we sit in the chairs. And as a toddler, our dorsiflexion is like 70 degrees. But as an adult, for desk-bound professionals, mostly they have seen it's 30 degrees only. So that's the difference. That's how much we lose over time. So we want to bring that back in.
Absolutely. That's a huge percentage. So we touched upon this a little bit. I feel like at the surface level, the connection between posture and flexibility might not be clear, because it kind of feels like strengthening. That seems like that would make sense. We're strengthening muscles, but go a little bit deeper with us on why just overall flexibility within the body is important to train if you're looking to improve your posture and overall wellness, really.
No. So flexibility is important because let's talk about muscle imbalances. So muscle imbalances is that certain muscles are stronger and certain muscle groups in our body become stronger, and then certain muscle groups become very weak. There are two major reasons why that happens. First is for desk-bound professionals, and for most of us, we are sitting in a hunched over position. I'm describing how we look when we work. We have our head forward, dropping our chin down slightly. Mostly we are looking down at the screen or the keyboards. And our shoulders are rounded. So what this posture is doing is it's gonna create this muscle imbalance in the front and back of our body. So the front muscles of our body are gonna get really strong, which you can see my chest and shoulder muscles right here, the anterior or front shoulder muscles are working hard. And the back muscles over here, they become extremely weak. And same thing with the neck muscles here. The neck muscles become weak, and certain muscles in the back of the neck become super tight. So with this muscle imbalance, we have knots. So knots get created in our tight muscles, and that muscle is not going to be flexible now. So that's where the flexibility comes in. And this is what our posture is, right? So you're not in an optimal posture, and this is reducing our flexibility. Second concept which exists in a lot of our lives is the bilateral symmetry that we look at. So we know that we have an affinity to use certain side of our bodies, right? I'm a right-handed person. I use my right hand to brush my teeth. I use my right hand to cook food, and whatnot, right? But then I've also seen kids and adults carrying their computer bags on that same dominant shoulder. What's that going to do over time? Your right shoulder is going to be slightly higher than your left shoulder. So we see this bilateral asymmetry in our bodies too. That also drives muscle imbalances, but now those muscle imbalances are in the mirror image of our bodies, right? So again, same thing happening. Now my right shoulder is going to be higher. Why? Because the shoulder blade that's going to lift that bag up, it's always going to be tight. It's elevated. So even when I'm taking the bag off, day after day, year after year, since I have that habit, now it just permanently stays there. And that drives down our kinetic chain too. It doesn't stop just at the shoulder or neck. Now it's going to drive down. We see that if the right shoulder is higher, the left leg is slightly longer. So that's how the flexibility comes into play, because now my shoulder blade is super tight on this side. It's not flexible at all. And it's compensating in some way with one of the front muscles here. So I have to lengthen those muscles, elongate those muscles. I have to foam roll first, make sure that I relieve those knots, then lengthen, bring them back into that neutral position. Once I do that, now I'm able to strengthen those weak muscles. Then I'm able to strengthen the opposing weak muscles. So equal and opposing muscles are the muscles normally which we see are one side is weak, one side is strong.
Got it. And it sounds like even if somebody, maybe couldn't work with a specialist, it sounds like a big piece of this is just having awareness. And, like you mentioned with the bag and carrying the repetitive motion of over time, just always using that right shoulder, having that awareness to alternate the shoulders that you're using, and bring some stretches into everyday life. So really interesting. So before we move into talking about movement a little bit more, I know that in the book you mentioned something about the brace method, and I thought maybe you could go into a little more depth with that, because it's just, I think, will be very helpful.
Yeah, so brace model is my model of posture correction. Over the years, when I was trying to find better posture through movement, through exercise, I started finding out that, it's not just movement. It's not just the increased level of activity or structured exercise that's going to give you better posture. Because if you have muscle imbalances and you start working out in the gym, not knowing what you're doing, or not working with a specialist, what's going to happen? You can actually aggravate your posture even more, because you're going to keep on strengthening those tight muscles. A lot of times I see, especially male clients, they come to me and they're doing push-ups and chest presses all the time, which make them look awesome. I agree. But guess what? Those are the very muscles that are very tight in our body. And that's exactly why they're so easy to train. However, those people need that strengthening of the back muscles first and lengthening of the chest muscles. So they're kind of like, going about it the wrong way. So that's why I created these 4 pillars. The first pillar is B stands for breath, R stands for relaxation or stress reduction, you can say. A stands for activity, and CE stands for corrective exercise. So breathing, the way we breathe is super important. And it's an easy life hack. We can just practice slow breathing for 3 to 5 minutes in the morning and maybe 3 to 5 minutes at night. But I say 3 to 5 minutes a day is enough. And it would make a huge difference. When we are seated, especially slumped, what are we doing? We are collapsing our lungs and even our digestive organs. So when we collapse our lungs, we can't breathe optimally. So our lungs and diaphragm, which is another muscle under the lungs, can't expand fully. But if you practice just 3 to 5 minutes of slow breathing in which you're really pulling the air into your lungs, taking your time there, expanding your diaphragm, what it does is it massages your spine. So it's like a massage for your spine. It expands your spine with the optimal range of motion inside. It opens, it closes with that breathing action. Just 3 to 5 minutes a day, that would undo a lot of the tightness that we see in our muscles around the core region, especially the hip flexors, and it will activate our deep intrinsic core muscles, which we don't normally use. Then we look at relaxation. We are all stressed out, right? And when we are working on our computers, especially, we hold this low-level tension in our bodies. Now that low-level tension builds up. Tense muscles are overactive muscles. Overactive muscles create muscle imbalances. Muscle imbalances create poor posture. So I describe in my book that take 3 to 5 minutes of just like, have white space in your day. Deprive yourself of every sensory object, like, take your phone away, shut down your computer, maybe sit outside in your garden now that the weather is getting nice, but take yourself away from technology and unwind. 3 to 5 minutes does the trick. And then activity, you can move often, just start moving 2 minutes every 30 minutes at your desk station. Don't leave your desk. If you feel like it really disrupts your flow, stay there, but move. And that would improve your posture. So the more we stay in one position, what we have observed as scientists is that our body loves varying postures. So our body likes for us to sit on the floor for 30 minutes, then maybe go on to a standing desk for 30 minutes, and then maybe sit in the chair for 30 minutes. So activity is important for just varying positions. And then follow corrective exercises. Those are in my book. They're easy stretches, foam rolling exercises, and strengthening exercises, just body weight strengthening exercises that you can do at your desk that would help you have better posture over your life.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that low level tension that can arise just as one's working at the computer. And I'd imagine that impacts your breathing patterns as well, possibly more shallow breaths or more rapid breathing, which, must tie into tensing of the muscles and all of those muscle imbalances that you were talking of. So because you mentioned, being at the desk for this and that low level tension, I was going to ask about movement and what you tell your clients that say, I'm just too busy to exercise or to move. What kind of hacks do you have for those individuals that claim they don't have enough time for movement breaks?
Yeah, Katera, that's a great question because almost all of my clients don't have time, which I understand, right? We all have priorities, like we have family life, we want to progress in our careers. So there are a lot of projects that we take on. So I understand that. But to make movement a priority, it is easy if it becomes a natural part of your day. And to get started, think small. I love James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, right? He talks about how improving 1% every day improves us like so many times over the year. But what if you don't take that action, right? Then you're not improving, actually you're going downhill, and we don't want that. So we can prevent that by just moving 10 minutes a day. So for that, wear comfortable shoes to work so that you can walk often. Maybe even if it's around the office, you walk often, go down the hallway. Another way to do it is to rethink your meetings. I highly recommend corporate settings to change their at least once daily meeting to in-person walking meeting, or if on call, or an audio Zoom meeting. And walking meetings help increase your creativity and focus. So especially if you're doing brainstorming sessions, take them out. Take them, walking in the hallway. Third is to download apps. So there are many apps out there that will give you movement suggestions, and you can set a timer on those. So let's say you can't do every 30 minutes. You're like, oh, I can never move 30 minutes. But can you move every 50 minutes? Maybe you can move every hour. So set that timer up on the app for 60 minutes. And in that, you can actually set up your movement preferences too. So maybe you can set it up to squats and lunges. So every 60 minutes, you're going to do 10 squats. Then after that, it will alternate to lunges. And after that, it can alternate to maybe going up and down the steps in your office. So just think of small movements, but when they are accumulated, right? That's a big result. Before you know it, you will have that minimum amount of exercise that Surgeon General recommends, which is 20 minutes a day, within your day. So those are some very, very easy ways, easy hacks to get more movement in.
Yes. And what I love about that is everybody knows movement will give you those positive endorphins. So you're naturally working against that low level tension or any stress that you have. That movement is actually going to be having a really positive effect on the rest of your day. Okay, so I have to ask if you have any favorite stretches or exercises that you teach clients or that you personally do when it's a busy day for you. Would love for you to walk us through a few of those that we can take home with us to practice.
Yeah, so a first stretch is also a power pose. So it's easy if you're just in the listen only mode and you're driving. You can practice this later on at home. It's to just extend your arms overhead, reach with your fingertips up towards the ceiling, hold it for 20 to 30 seconds like this, but make sure that your shoulders are stacked above your hips. A lot of times your hips would start protruding forward, so you don't want that. Just hold it here. And this has many benefits. While we're holding it, I'm just going to go down the benefits. So this has many benefits. It's going to decrease your cortisol levels and increase your testosterone levels, which is a power hormone. So cortisol is your stress hormone. So now you're not going to be as stress reactive. You're not going to be as anxious, which we all are behind the desks. I know we do. We are. And you're going to have more testosterone, which means you're going to be more confident. So this is not only a good stretch for your upper body and your shoulder blades, it's also a good stretch for, just to increase confidence. Second is, you can bring your arms down now. Second is to strengthen the muscles around our shoulder blades. So just to let you guys know what shoulder blades are those big triangular bones in the back of our body. You must have felt them, you must have seen them, maybe you even train to show them off during summer. Well, beach season is coming up. So easy way to have them, to train for them. And what that does is it opens up our chest to get into a Titanic pose. So you bring your arms out into a T, so your arms are in line with your shoulders. And now try to squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other as if you're holding maybe a lottery ticket in between your shoulder blades. Hold it for 10 to 15 seconds here, and then release, drop your arms down. So you can do these for 5 to 10 repetitions at a time. But five to 10 sets of 2 to 3 a day will make a huge difference. And you don't need weights. Some people always ask me, oh, but we want to use weights. So use your water bottle, filled water bottle. That's enough weight. That's around 1 pound. And that's enough weight in both of your hands to strengthen it even further if you want to progress it. And the third one is the chin tuck. Now, chin tuck you can do if you're standing on a red light or if you have Tesla. So you can use your index finger and your big finger and press your chin back, press your head into the backrest of your driving seat. Or if you have a chair with the backrest at work, you can do that. Another good way to do it is to use a wall, stand against a wall and press your chin an inch or two. So what you're doing is you're bringing your chin in line with your forehead, keeping your eyes forward and giving yourself that slight double chin. Why? Because you're working these muscles so that you don't have double chin. So that's really good because that gets rid of that forward head posture that we always have when we are trying to get a better look of our screens.
All right, so everyone has their homework, right? Everyone's going to go home and practice this over the next week and keep it going. Thank you for that. So I know you also mentioned there's, pieces of equipment that you recommend. You've mentioned the foam roller. If you could pick 1 or 2 of your top pieces of equipment for folks that really wants to start improving their posture, working on movement a little bit more, whether that's at home or at the office, do you have any suggestions you can give?
Yeah, so there are a couple of them. First one is a laptop stand. So just search laptop stands on Amazon and a bunch of options will come up. But a portable one that you can just fold into your backpack and take it with you if you're going to the coffee shop to do the work or for a meeting at the office, you can take it everywhere with you. While I was writing the book, I was at the coffee shops all day because I just don't know. I got more work done at coffee shops than at my home. So I would take my laptop stand with me. And a lot of people would, come to my desk and they'll be like, oh, what is this? Where did you get this? Why? It's so important to have your computer screen in line with your vision. So a lot of the forward head and rounded neck posture that we are seeing now is because we keep on looking down. We are texting, we're looking down. We're working on the computer, we're typing, we're looking down. So we want to prevent that. So that's an easy, $10, $20 investment, and it really saves your posture. Second is a sit to stand desk converter. So half of your day should be spent standing, not full day, but half of your day should be spent standing at your desk. So sit to stand desk converters are easy. Again, look it up on Amazon. There are a bunch of brands out there, whichever one you prefer, go for it. They will convert your existing desk into a standing desk. And when you're standing, your muscles are just more active. Your lower leg muscles are more active. Your core is more active. So all the muscles that we want to be active, the right muscles are active when you're standing. When you're sitting, those are the muscles that become inactive, and it really reduces your blood circulation too, which leads to a lot of metabolic diseases, which we don't want.
Got it. Well, before we jump into Q&A, because we were almost at that time, do you want to do a quick posture check and brace model check with our audience just to see where we're at, if we've progressed better over the course of the past 40 minutes?
Let's do that. I love that. So we're going to start from our head down to our toes. If you are driving, make sure that you practice it at home later. I'm going to prompt you. So head should be aligned over your spine and your chin should be just slightly depressed back, as if you have a slight double chin, not too much, so that the chin is in line with your forehead. Now your shoulders should be stacked above your hips. I'm going to try to move back. So your shoulders should be stacked above your hips. And one good way to align your hips is to squeeze your glutes in the back. Just have a slight squeeze. And then align your hips over your ankles, and make sure you're pressing with your whole foot into the ground. So how did that check go?
Hopefully good for everyone. I know it helped me.
Awesome. Awesome. And then the brace model is super easy. Breathe every day, 3 to 5 minutes. Relax. Maybe meditate, maybe have a quiet time. Be active as much as you can. There are plenty of movement apps out there. And then do 3 to 5 corrective exercises.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, with that, we are going to dive into the questions because we do have a few that have come in. So you, of course, talked about correcting poor posture, but for someone who says they've had poor posture since their teens, and they are really looking for a place to start in how to reversing, is it the corrective exercises you've mentioned? Is there anything else you want to add to somebody who says, I'm just starting this journey and it's been with me for my whole life?
Yeah, so starting small, of course, is key. So we want to start where you are, and trying to progress very slowly would be key for you. And also start looking at the simplest options. Again, breathing, right? Just correcting your breathing, practicing better breathing. There are 3 to 4 different breathing exercises in my book, which you can practice on your own at your own time. And there are videos on my website too that you can follow. The one thing I would say that if you feel like that your posture has been since childhood, you might want to get checked with the doctor too. Although a lot of times it's not, there's no genetic component, but sometimes there could be. So you do want to look into that first too. But there are certain things that you can do no matter what kind of posture anomaly it is, genetic or non-genetic, that you can take care of yourself and it would start improving your posture. Those are simple stretches, right? Of course, I can't tell without doing further analysis, but just knowing if that is if it is the common posture imbalances that we see in desk-bound people or just in general public because of the holding heavy bags or carrying grocery bags, that is mostly, we call it an upper cross syndrome, which is like the closed upper body posture. And sometimes it's like the hip flexors are super tight. So we see an extra arch in the lower back. For those, there are very simple, common exercises in which you can strengthen your abdominals. You can stretch your chest, right? You can perform like a Superman chest that we did earlier. It's awesome. You can do the Titanic pose, which is going to strengthen the right muscles and lengthen your chest muscles and the muscles that are commonly there. But it's always good to make sure that there's nothing else going on if that's something that you believe you had early on in your life.
Well, thank you. Okay, so someone's saying they have some scoliosis going on, some disc disease. If they're not paying attention, they do find that they're hunching over in position. So they're asking, is it too late to change? And I have a hunch I know your answer to that.
Yeah, no. So a lot of my clients come to me for that reason, because they have already started seeing some degenerative changes. Some people come to me with already like a slight hump back, right? So no, it's not too late to change. You can undo it. You have to be consistent and persistent with your corrective exercise program, with your breathing exercises, with moving more often, whatever you can tolerate with your posture at this time. Of course, we don't want to go to pain, but we want to be more active than where you are. So that might just mean that, instead of sitting on the couch to watch TV, you're probably standing, or you're probably sitting on the floor with the floor cushions. So those kind of small changes, if you start making, you're going to start seeing improvement right away. So it takes six to 8 weeks to start seeing some kind of improvement.
But I love that it's never too late to start at any time, and you will see that improvement. Okay, so we also have someone who would love if you could speak a little bit more towards a hunched senior. He's saying he or she says it's seeming impossible to stand up totally straight, possible bone deformation. Do you have any suggestions there?
Yeah, so the suggestions would be to see a specialist in this case. If you're already seeing that degeneration to the point that you are like slumping forward, hunching forward while you're walking, again, physical therapists, movement specialists, chiropractors, they are all capable of taking care of this kind of posture. But you do want to be under somebody's care who can give you these exercises that are going to address your particular muscle imbalance. Because without doing all those tests on you, we can't suggest like exactly what's happening and where we need to target those exercises. My book has some plain general exercises that you can do, which we see most commonly in people, right? The muscle imbalances, which you can do on your own, but that's not a replacement of care in this case.
Got it. All right, so going back to the laptop stand, which I know that you highly recommended, someone's asking, can they just make sure that their eyes are at the correct level? So do you need, I think maybe they're traveling, they're not always right at home with their laptop. Is there, do you have any other suggestions if they don't have that laptop stand? Is it all about just getting the eyes at the correct level of the screen?
It is. So it is all about getting the eyes on the correct level. So right now I'm trying to look into the camera most of the time. So I have my laptop stand adjusted to that height. So it comes in a height adjustable form, but no worries if you don't have the laptop stand with you. If you have a lot of my clients who travel, I'm like, okay, if you go to the hotel rooms, you'll see books. You can stack your laptop stand on, you can stack a couple of books and put your laptop on those books. That can become your stand actually. Same thing. I want to say the same concept should apply to airplanes, to airports too. Airports could be tough, but with airports, this is what I do, and I've started seeing this in a lot of airports now, that they have these bar height countertops. So turn that into a standing desk, and then again stack your laptop on something high. Maybe it's a box you have, maybe it's your roll-on suitcase, maybe it's your backpack. As long as it's stable, just stack it on that. That's going to elevate the screen height, and you want it to be placed like at an arm level away from yourself. That's the safe distance from your eyes, and it needs to be in line with your vision.
All right, good. I think this is a great question. So among the array of different choices, so yoga, Pilates, bar, do you have a favorite specifically that will help somebody towards strengthening their posture? Is there a certain exercise modality that you lean on the most?
Oh, all three of these are my favorite because they are all so good for posture. So yoga is awesome for building flexibility and strength too, and balance, right? Pilates is my favorite from the list. But I am a little biased towards bar too, because I'm a bar instructor and I love bar classes. But Pilates is my favorite. Why? Because the Pilates exercises focus literally on the core. So they're activating your intrinsic core muscles. And once we activate those deep core muscles that we don't use anymore, and they don't actually react to the gravity as much as the rest of our body's muscles do. So that's another reason why they are always weak. So we have to intentionally train them. Now, when you go to a Pilates class, 60 minutes of training those muscles, that's what you're getting, right? Just focused training of the core muscles. That really translates well to a good posture.
Fantastic. So I have somebody asking, they must like you out in the audience. How can people come see you? Do you do sessions only in person? And we know we of course actually have an in-person workshop coming up in early May at the 92nd Street Y. So anybody local to the 92nd Street Y should come visit us in early May. We will send out that link detail in the email, the replay email that comes out next week. But is there other ways that people can see you if they're not nearby New York City?
So yeah, they can see me virtually. I do all the posture assessments virtually, and I give all the exercises virtually. I lead my clients through the exercises first, then they can also do them at home. We have video, they get video access to the library. Another way, as you said, is if you are local, come over to the 92nd Street Y. There is a workshop coming up, in-person workshop coming up on posture in the first week of May. And we are going to do a lot of practical exercises that workshop, which people can take home, and now they can practice. Now, since they've seen the right form, now they can implement them in their lives.
Fantastic. So I think we have time for one last question, which is just a quick circle back to the sit to stand. Somebody was just looking for a clarification, making sure that it is indeed a crossed ankle test and not the sit to stand. I think they might be thinking of the kind of classic physical therapy sit to stand from a chair. But in the test you're talking about, you want them fully standing and fully going down to a cross-legged position. Is that right?
So the test, that particular test is cross-legged, and there's a TED Talk that explains that, and I can send you the link so that we can include that in the resources of the recording. But if you are not able to sit down all the way, you can use that sitting and standing out of the chair as an alternate. But that's not the actual test that predicts your lifespan.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Well, we're about to wrap up here. Aesha, do you have anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
I would love to see them at the in-person workshop, and my book is coming out the first week of May, and May is National Posture Month. Did you know that? So my book is coming out. Keep an eye out on Amazon. The digital version is going to be out like May 10th, and you can purchase it at that time.
I remember us being very excited to host this in-person workshop in May for National Posture Month. So yes, May 3rd, everybody, is when that's happening, 6:30 to 7:30. So I want to thank you, Aesha, so much for this really valuable content. We have a lot of positive feedback coming in. So I do hope that we'll see some folks in person. Maybe we'll get a virtual session going as well for those that are a little bit further away. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining our Spark Your Health talk this evening with Aesha Tahir, and stay tuned for the replay email that will go out early next week with all of the resources that we mentioned in today's talk as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and be well.